All right, so what I want all of you to do initially, right off the bat, is I want you guys to go on Portal. You have a quiz available. Please go and take your quiz right now. Okay.
Mr. Martinez,
Who's talking?
Allison, I can't get my camera to work for some reason.
Okay, do me a favor, finish your quiz and then restart your computer and then
Okay.
join the meeting. All right. Okay. So it looks like everybody's done. Okay. So kind of a hard lesson for some of you that you're going to learn today, unfortunately. Um, so in the last question, all right, I specifically said write a line of code that will declare the variable count to be of type int. Some of you put int a, int g, int x. Some of you initialized it. Those are wrong. You got no credit for it. I didn't ask for G, I didn't ask for A, I didn't ask you to initialize it. On the AP exam, you would get that wrong because you couldn't follow directions. So don't just go on your own, follow everything that it's telling you to do, okay? Unfortunately, it's a hard lesson to learn, but again, it goes back to the whole, if I don't ask you for it, don't give me it. So, and again, some of you initialized it. I didn't ask for the variable to be initialized, all right? So again, tough lesson, but nothing too crazy. Overall scores are good. Overall, everyone's doing fine. So, all right, that being said, what I need you guys to do is open up a new project. And I want you to call this in particular, I want you to call this strings, okay? Capital S and not string. If you make a class called string, you are going to mess up Java. You need to make a new class called strings.
The class should be strings. What about the project name?
When I say project, that's the name of the class. Or the class should be tester, sorry.
Okay.
So if the project should be called strings, you can always name the tester class whatever you want. But again, do not make it string. Do not do that. Remember, you never create the module.
Mr. Marty?
Yes.
I forget when you delete, the side where all of them are listed, if you
Yes.
click out of that, how do you get it back?
So if you go to, hold on one second, let me finish making my class real quick for you guys. And I'll share it with you right now. So what you do is click anywhere on Eclipse so that it's open, go to Window, Show View,
Okay.
Project Explorer, or Package Explorer, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And it should pop back up. Did it?
Mr. Marty,
Yes.
can we put the strings class in the variables project or no?
I personally it's helpful if you guys have everything just like in its own project. Okay. But if you want to, if that's a preference, I can't stop you, obviously. So it's up to you. I'll leave that up. What?
I just said okay.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so can you guys see my screen okay? All right, so there are a few items in Java that are very, very important, like loops and stuff like that. Strings, without a doubt, is not only one of the most important concepts in this class, but it's also one of the most important concepts, just period. Just straight up, you will be tested heavily on strings, okay? And this is where we're gonna start going into more advanced programming, more advanced coding, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we're just learning the building blocks, but we're gonna basically be taking it from here. All right, so I have my tester class. Now, strings in general, okay? As we know, they're the largest variable because they're dynamic. They basically can be as large as much RAM as you have. So if you got 64 gigabytes of RAM, you probably make a 62 gigabyte variable, a string variable. Okay, again, it's dynamic. It's just building on the fly. So now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering all the aspects of string. Now, again, this could be 2 to 3 days. On the AP, you're only required to know 5, okay? For me, you're required to know anywhere from 14 to 15 of them. The good thing is yeah, how many of you guys had geometry before?
Put it in there?
No, can I
Okay. And so you guys have, Ashton, on the mute. Jeez, ugh. All right. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna learn 14. The thing is, some of the methods that I'm also teaching you, you can use on the AP, and they're easier than going the long way. That's the one thing that's really weird about the AP is what they expect you to learn. You can program one program in about 10 steps, but if you know the right methods, you could do it in 2, and you're not wrong. So, because I will say this, the APCS principles graders, not very bright. The APCS, the computer science, for the most part, they're brilliant. They're really, really good programmers. And for the most part, they actually enjoy seeing people go outside of the subset to solve problems. So that's what our goal is just to basically be complete programmers. So how many of you guys have ever heard of that term, object-oriented programming? So Java is an object-oriented programming language. And what that basically means is you have the class, which our class is called tester, okay? But we also have other classes that are built into Java, one like string. And inside, you can put little methods, little subprograms that run things, okay? And make what we call objects out of them. Now, we were not going to cover all of that today, but basically, this is going to be our introduction to objects in a way. Now, when we start off, so let's go right off the bat. So Benny. Okay, and all right, so Benny, no trick question, straight off the bat, what's the biggest difference between int and string? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
String has a capital S.
String is capitalized. So when something is capitalized and it's built into Java, that means that it is a pre-existing class. Remember when we learned Python and we had certain tools that were already built into Python that we could use? String is one of these tools that we can use, okay? So now int a is also another type of what variable? Kennedy, what type is it? Starts with a P.
Primitive.
Primitive variable, okay, very good. Okay, now primitive is only capable of doing what, Kennedy?
Well, this is not primitive precision, so just holding whole numbers.
Yeah, but whole numbers, negative, positives, just in general, can only do one thing, and can store them, okay? String, on the other hand, has a little bit more attached to it, all right? So I'm gonna leave these for now. Now, we know, so in programming, we also recycle symbols, all right? So let's see, Armand. What's that symbol? Just if you saw it, what would you say that is?
Plus.
The plus sign, which is used for math, for addition, correct? But where have we also seen the plus sign?
With concatenation.
Concatenation, exactly. So Allie girl, you see this. Grammatically, you think it's a what?
Period.
Bingo. If you saw it in math, what would you say it was?
A decimal point.
Bingo, exactly. But when we're dealing with programming, the period also serves another purpose. It's what we call, it basically does what we call calling. It calls on things. The period is known as the dot operator. And what the dot operator basically does is it's like the key. It gives us access to everything that is included. And this is simply how it's used. So if I say a dot, a is primitive, nothing happens. But if I say name dot, all of these methods are built into the string class that we can use, that we can call on using the dot operator. Now, there's something like 62 to 63 in here, okay? Something like that. We're not gonna need to know all 62 or all 63 of them, all right? You're gonna need to know about 14 or 15. And like I said, on the test, you're only gonna be really 5 to 6 that they're really gonna kind of make sure that you know. But when it comes to free response, almost always, there's gonna be at least 2 questions that deal with strings. And if you know the methods that I show you guys, one, when you go to other programming languages, they have their own version of these methods, okay? You'll be like, oh, okay, I got it. This is just like this. I just have to find the way that it's written in this language, okay? Just like, for example, does Python have a print statement? It's print.
Yeah.
Does Java have a print statement? it's system.out.println. So basically the fundamentals are the same. You just have to learn, okay, how's it written in this language? All right, so let's get started, okay? Now, I'm gonna leave int a here equals 5, that's fine. We're gonna just use a over again when we do some examples. So I figure name, I would put the name of probably arguably the greatest individual on the planet. You know, go. So that, I saw that, Kenny. So that being said, stop smirking, Nicholas. So that being said, let's get started. The first method. Now, when we talk about methods, we know methods are basically little sub-programs that are pre-built into Java that do a purpose. And 9 times out of 10, the name tells you what it does, okay? So the first one we're going to do is we're gonna look at the length, okay? So I'm going to say the way that I access it is I say name dot length. Open parentheses, close parentheses. This is important. I will go after you with a trick question. So for example, if I say, let's say I gave you this right here, int a equals 5. On a test, if I said, what type of method is a? What type of method is it?
It's not a method.
It's not a method because it doesn't have the parentheses. And who remembers what these parentheses are called? Starts with a P.
Parameter.
Parameters. Very good. Good job, guys. Okay. These are called parameters. These are basically the rules that you need to follow in order for you to run the method. Now, we have no parameters for length. I run it. It spits back 5. Okay. Now, basically what the length is doing, the length method, and I always refer to it as dot length because I like to instill that, remembering that you always have to use the dot operator to call on it. So the dot length method simply counts the number of characters in the string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I wanted to put this, Marty Party, okay? The thing you also have to remember is the space matters also. The space counts. Do you have to push a keyboard stroke to get a space? So it absolutely counts. So now, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay? Don't forget that. If I add, let's say, 1, 2, 3 exclamation points, it's now 14. Anything that's in there, it counts. Now also notice that it spits back a what?
Int.
Isis, what does it spit back?
An int.
An integer, exactly. And now, what type of variable, if I wanted to store the length, 1, I'm absolutely allowed to. I can store it in a variable. But 2, what's probably the more appropriate variable that we would store it in? Who can tell me?
A byte or a short.
Nope. For
Char.
the AP, in terms of the AP, think
Int.
AP. What?
Int.
An int. Could I store it in a double?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It would just change to 14.0, but absolutely I could store it in a double. But am I ever going to encounter half a letter? No, probably not. So what makes sense is to just go ahead and stick with just sticking it into an integer.
How would you store it in a
So
double?
for example, I've already declared and initialized a. So if I said a equals name.length, this now gets stored. And then I would just print out a.
Okay.
Okay, very simple. Good question. That's what I was getting to in a minute next. So now here's the thing. Sometimes you want to just go ahead and print out what it is. Sometimes you need to store it. Some people get into the preference of, I'll ask you to print out the length of the name. Some of you will do it this way. Some of you will do it this way, where you just print out the length. Either one is fine. The second way just takes a little bit longer. But trust me when I tell you, like, I've had kids that just the way they think, it makes sense for them. Whatever makes sense for you, as long as it's the right way, do it. Okay? So that's the dot length method. And again, all this does is it counts length in the string. So the next one, again, as I told you guys, it doesn't, 9 times out of 10, the method will tell you what it does. Ashton, we're learning to uppercase. Now I know this is a tough one, but what do you think this one does?
Makes the letters uppercase.
So if I say name dot to uppercase, he's right. Okay, yay. Here's something that you have to remember though, okay? So it just made everything uppercase. It takes whatever in the string and it does it for that one instance only. Name is still that. How could I override it to be that? How could I override it?
You could say name is equal to name dot to uppercase.
Exactly. So you guys got to remember this from Python. So if I said name equals name dot to uppercase, and again, this is what we're going to go into math soon. So I don't really go into the new value equals. So now it has been completely changed. All right. But we have another one. What do you think this one does? Dot to lowercase. Nick, take a stab at it.
I think maybe it makes everything lowercase.
You are correct, sir. So if I do this and I just change this to,
You put low, just by the way.
oh, whoops. All right. Thank you for that. Marty Party. Boom, done. Everything is lowercase. But Mal, technically, so we did it for that one instance, but has name itself changed at all? Has the variable name changed at all? No, it hasn't. So take a look. Again, this is the thing that you have to basically always have an understanding of. When I run name, it's still capitalized. All I've done is I've taken what was in there and temporarily applied this. It still goes back to normal after that line of code is done. The only time it actually changes is in line 20 right here, where I am overriding the value of the variable with this to dot to uppercase. That is the only time, all right? So again, system.println name.length, system.println name.to uppercase, and system.println, et cetera, et cetera. So that is basically, those are the first 3 methods: the length, to uppercase, and to lowercase. So far, not difficult at all, right? Now, the other thing I want to show you also is this. So let's say I said string address equals Los Angeles. Okay. Now, address has its own set of methods. The reason I bring this up is because recently I've had a bunch of children, like our students, think that that they're linked in some way. What you've string is a pre-existing class. When I say string name, basically what I'm doing is I am taking the box string, I am making a clone of it and calling it name. With address, I'm taking a clone of string and calling it address. They do this as a form of protection, so you can now screw up anything you want with name, anything you want. Go ahead, screw it up. It's just a clone. The original is never being touched. That being said, also, address has no idea that name exists. They have their own set of methods, okay? Sometimes what will happen is, like you guys will, some students will think that they're linked somehow, so they mess up with like the 2 uppercase or 2 lowercase, or they don't even answer the question saying that it's an error because they conflict and the names don't match. I just want to clarify that right now so that you guys know, when every time you're making objects, they don't know each other exists. They're completely separate. Understood? Okay, guys. So every 25 to 30 minutes, we're going to take a 5-minute break. It's 10:58. So come back in 5 minutes. I don't want you guys on the screen completely for an hour. Okay? We don't have the luxury of you guys being able to look up at the board and see stuff. So get your eyes off the screen. Come back in 5 minutes. Hey, Siri, set timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, your timer is set for 5 minutes.
When you hear the timer, come back. All right, let's go back. Okay. I feel really bad. How many of you guys have dogs? So I have this fellow dog that's out there or whatever, and I put dog food and a little bit of milk out, and this cat keeps stealing all the freaking food and the milk. So like I was like, all right, I'm gonna pay it back. So I put some gasoline in the milk, and the cat ate it and just started going around like this around the yard, and then it just stopped.
That
And
sounds like animal
Wow.
abuse.
No, just plopped over. A little scary. What? It ran out of gas. Nobody? No. Come on. All right. Okay. Whatever. All right. That was a good one. Leave me alone. All right. Okay. So moving on. Let's go back to sharing the screen. Give me a second. All right. Thank you for the animal abuse comment, Allie. Glad to know that positivity is still there. All right. So we've done our 3 things. Okay. So now let's move forward. All right, so one of the key things that you're gonna have to pretty much do almost every single time that we're dealing with, am I recording the whole screen? Oops, hold on. Let me just share, sorry about that. Here we go, that's what I want. All right, so one of the things that we have to get, you guys have to get comfortable with is understanding the difference between length and something that we've learned before, indices. So with a string, you have to imagine that when you've created a string, like for example, here, Marty Party. This is basically a set of individual boxes that have been linked together. Now with length, Isis, what do we start at? What number? When we're counting the length, what do we start with?
Is it 1?
Yep, we have the first letter, second letter, third letter, fourth letter, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But with indices, we start at 0. So the lowest index value is always going to be 0. The highest index value is going to be the length minus 1. So if length is n minus 1. Okay, that is the highest index value. All right. Now I have the string here, Marty Party. Okay, I'm just going to change it right now to Marty. Okay, so let's see, Leo, in string name, what is the second letter?
The second letter? M.
A, yep, okay. The second letter,
okay.
A, okay. But Ashton, what's in the second index? R. So when we're doing the length, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when we're doing indices, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Indices start at 0. The index length starts at 0. Always remember that, okay? So now we move on to one of the methods that is so important. Every single year they test you on this method. So if you have a strong understanding of this method, you can guarantee yourself almost that you're at least going to get one portion of the free response correct. Okay, literally. Now, obviously I'm making it sound easier than it actually is. You still have to understand the question and understand what they're asking you, but 9 times out of 10, you have to use a substring in some way. So that is what it is. Dot substring with 1 parameter. Okay, so dot substring x. Substring with 1 parameter. And what I do is, let's say I did Sissa and then I said name dot substring 2. Okay, name dot substring 2. RTY prints out. Okay, and the reason it does is because what substring with 1 parameter does is it changes the starting index value. Okay, by default, let's see, by default, Allison, what would be the default substring value? Just a standard string.
I don't know what you mean.
So for example, substring, so if I said name, when I print out the word name, it prints out Marty. What is another way that I could print it out using substring? Name.substring, what's the starting index of every word, every string?
0.
0. So when I say name, it's the same thing as saying dot substring 0. Okay? But what substring with one parameter does is it changes the starting index. Okay? And more importantly, it's inclusive of that index value. So if you imagine like a number line, it would be a filled in circle with a line going infinitely that way. Basically, go ahead, start here now, print out the rest of the string. That's basically what substring with one parameter is doing. Now we also have substring with 2 parameters. Okay, substring with 2 parameters. What this does is it changes the starting index and the ending index. So if I write this, it just gives me RT. But what's important to understand is I have substring 2, 4. 2, 3, 4. This is where everybody makes a mistake. It is inclusive to exclusive. So 2, 3, 4, exclusive of 4, RT. Let's say for Vasily, let's say I just wanted to print out the R. What would let's say I just wanted to print out the R. What would my parameters be?
2, 3.
Bingo. So 2, 3, exclusive of 3. You will need to know how to do that. You will be quizzed on that. You will be tested on the AP on that, on how to use substring with 2 parameters to get out one single letter. And in some cases, 2 to 3 to 4 letters, okay? So name.substring 2, 4, all right? So that changes the starting index. Now notice also something, 2, 5. This prints out RTY. But that's weird. 2, 3, 4. I have no 5. This is kind of an outlier, a little hidden trick in Java. 5 is exclusive, right? Is there something in 4? Yes. So as long as there is something in the box previous to it, you're in the clear. But if I change this to 6, I go over 5, 6. Is there anything in 5? No. This generates a specific error that you are going to need to know. Okay? It's called a string index out of bounds exception error. Okay? More often than not, we just call it an index out of bounds exception. Okay? So this represents an index out of bounds exception. Now, again, the reason why we get this error is because you've gone outside of the possible range of values. This error is generated in 2 ways. One, for some reason, you put in a negative number. You can't have negative letters. You're only dealing in positives. And 2, you've exceeded the highest, 1 past the highest, or 2 past the highest index value. So for example, Marty, even though it's an index of 4, I can technically use 5. You've gone 2 over 6. Okay, you've exceeded the range that you need. Okay, so again, this is an index out of bounds exception error. The other thing that you need to know is We have substring at 1 parameter, substring 2 parameters. If you were to open up the code, they have the same name. They are not the same method. They are 2 completely different methods. Okay? So we are only learning 5 of them today. So dot length. Do we have any questions on dot length? It's pretty straightforward, right? Just count the length of how many characters are in the string. We have dot to uppercase. Capitalize everything. Does it stay capitalized? No. We have dot to lowercase. Makes everything lowercase. Does it stay lowercase? No. We have substring with 1 parameter, which just changes the starting index from 0 to whatever you want it to be. Now, can I keep it 0? Yes. Let's say, for example, I wanted to just do the first 3 letters or something like that, okay? M-A-R. Okay, that works fine. A lot of times that'll have to happen. So we have substring 2 parameters that changes the starting and ending index. The difference is with the first one, it is inclusive. The second one is inclusive to exclusive. You will be quizzed on that, okay? You must know that if you fall outside of the range that you are generating a string index out of bounds exception error. And again, that only happens when you go outside of the range. There's about 6 errors that we need to know. It used to be 4. They've added 2 more within the last 2 years. But they're common. The name of the error is associated with what you are doing. So for example, this is a string index out of bounds. We are dealing with strings. When we get to arrays, it will be an array index, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. We also know that we've learned about the dot operator. Okay. We've also know that what string is, we're creating an object. And that every time we create a string, they are not talking to each other. They have nothing to do with each other. They have no idea each other exists, okay? So that is all we're going to cover today. We're not done just yet though. So I wanna go over a couple of things as well.
Mr. Marty,
Yes.
can you just explain that last couple things again? The string?
About
the
what?
You were saying how like they're completely oblivious to each other.
So whenever you make 2 variable string variables, one doesn't know the other exists. What I have students thinking that they're somehow linked, that they're both using the same set of methods. For example, let's say you and your brother get the exact same car, okay? You lower your car, your brother changes the tires on his, you put in an aftermarket stereo, he leaves his the same. Does your car have any effect on his car?
No.
Can they still drive?
Yeah.
Do they still have a windshield?
Yeah.
Do they still use a key to ignite?
Yeah.
So they still have all the properties of cars. You have just now tailored it. And if you don't like your car, can you get rid of it and start over?
Yeah.
Bingo. Okay. So going over this now, let's go to C. All right. So a couple of things. Now I put up some announcements. All right. First of all, we have adhesive. We are not really going to use adhesive's curriculum, okay? Every now and then they have some quizzes that I like that are decent, but one of the big things that I like is out of anything that's out there with the exception of one product, they have very, very, very good practice exams. Now, all of you who had me last year, you already have an adhesive account. Go ahead and sign in. Your new token is right here, this 9E3F68, okay? That is your new token, and that will take you into the APA class, all right? The other thing is you need to sign up for the actual AP test, all right? You'll need to sign up for it. All right, I will put the code on here, although I think the code is already in our classroom or something like that. Mr. Burnett sent me an email. Let me see what he said real quick. He said, where is it? Our join codes are listed on our AP classroom page, okay? So you guys should have that, all right? So when you go to Sierra Canyon, just look up, when you go into AP classroom, look up your section, okay, and then just add it. So it looks like I already have it. Let me just put it on here for you guys. Okay. So there we go. So the codes are there right off the bat. So you need to do that by Wednesday and go ahead and make sure that you sign up for adhesive as soon as possible. Okay. All right. Now your homework is going to be, your homework is chapter 3. Okay. Your homework is chapter 3, questions 1 through 12 evens. Now you guys have enough to go ahead and do it. Again, remember guys, go through the questions slowly. I'm going through, some of you have already been marked off. None of you have been late, which is great, but make sure that you are doing this in a timely fashion, go slow. And also remember again, don't submit it in a document and upload it. Just copy and paste it directly onto it, okay?
Should we expect a quiz tomorrow?
In this class, you should expect a quiz every single day. Now I can tell you this, with so right now, I'm going to be setting up my, I am going to be setting up my ProProfs, and starting probably not tomorrow's class, but maybe the class after, we will be using ProProfs for our quizzes, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the good thing again is I can instantly email you your reports, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really handy when it comes to that. But tomorrow it will be on the portal. Again, expect a quiz almost every single day. All right. And they will get progressively harder and harder because I will start trying to challenge you a little bit more and a little bit more. But again, we learned 5 today. Tomorrow is going to be not, it's not going to be tougher, but there's going to be more information that you're going to need to know. I would expect our first test to probably be, we start school September 8th.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm anticipating our first test to probably be either this Friday or Wednesday. I'm going to try to knock it out this Friday just so we get it completely out of the way and that you guys can enjoy Labor Day weekend. Does that sound good?
What will sorry, you might have already mentioned this in the orientation, but what will a test in this class for this look like?
Okay, so generally in this class, obviously I can't do too much when we're in the beginning phases of a test, but what's going to happen is the way I do it, it will more than likely be 10 to 20 multiple choice questions, 10 short answer, which are like, what does this print out? What does this print out? And then 1 code, 1 free response code. And again, the codes will be short. They'll be like 5 questions. And the cool thing, again, like I said, I've never had any issues with grading. I put the rubric up. And so I'll be able to look at your code and say, okay, you did 2 steps in 1, so you've earned this point and you've earned this point. My way is efficient, but there are always students that I have that just become a lot quicker, a lot more efficient. So, and then I will, generally what I do is in the comments is so in your comments, what I do is I will actually mark off what you lost the points for. Only for the free response, not for the multiple choice or short answer. And again, if you ever want to go over a test, 1, I highly recommend it. If anything that you don't understand, just let's get it out of the way really quickly. And 2, I'll have office hours again on the first day starting next week. All right.
When will
So
we
that's
have,
class. What's that?
When will we have the class after school?
Oh, so it's tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. And what I'm thinking tomorrow, so here's the thing. What I'm thinking tomorrow is I'm probably just going to make, rather than having you guys wait, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the entire class. I'm just going to start at 2:45 and go to 3:45. Just do 1 hour. And then what I'll do is with that particular class, I'll put it on both screens or on both of the topics pages. Okay. because I'm covering the same material. And I'll do a little refresher, all right? But I won't be recording the quiz.
What if we have a class that starts at like 2:45?
Well, class this year ends at 2:30, so that would be interesting.
No, I mean, it doesn't it end at 3? Because I had a class the other day that ended at like 3 something.
Yeah, I have a class today from 3:55 to 4:55.
Yeah, same.
I also
More than
have
okay, so
tomorrow.
more than likely. So here's why. The only reason why they moved your class, the only reason they did that is because we have meetings. So did they tell you that class was 3:55, or is it on your schedule as 3:55? Huh, Armand?
Our schedule.
It's actually on your schedule.
Yeah.
3:50 Okay, then what they probably did is just for that day, they moved it around. So because today's the first day, we've already had teacher meetings this morning at 8 o'clock. So more than likely, Armand, that's pretty much why you had to go there.
Yeah.
Looking at the schedule tomorrow, I also have an AP class that ends at 3:30.
It ends at 3. Oh, the reason, okay, so it's only an exception. Starting next week, the classes go back to regular. They're just trying to give us more time.
Okay, but for tomorrow,
So, okay, so,